With fishing season upon us, there is some information Sask Environment wants fishermen and boaters to know about. With us now from the ministry is Chris Dunn. So Chris, what is an invasive species?
An invasive species is something that typically doesn't live in a particular area and then very quickly moves into a new habitat and colonizes that habitat. They tend to be species that are not native to the area and often tend to be species that are very prolific, have high reproductive rates, and can spread quite quickly.
Now, why is this being brought up with Sask Environment right now?
Well, there's a number of different invasive species that pose a threat to our aquatic waters in the province. Particular concern at this time is with two species of invasive mussels, the zebra mussel and the quagga mussel. And as I mentioned earlier, once they become established, they can spread quite quickly and they're almost impossible to eradicate afterwards.
Now, I understand in the southeast corner of the province, that's where there's been quite a large concern about this.
Well, the concern is across the province. Part of the reason for the focus on the southeast is 2 years ago, Manitoba confirmed the presence of zebra mussels in Lake Winnipeg. And I believe it was 2 years prior to that, North Dakota confirmed the presence of zebra mussels in their state. So below Saskatchewan in Montana, they're not known to have them, and then the states further west are not known to have them either. Nor are our western provinces, the provinces to the west of us. So yeah, our focus has generally been on boats coming in from those areas, or that's where our greatest concern is.
Now, what do they do to the environment?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, once they're established, the two invasive mussel species we're concerned about can take over the bottom. They cover the whole bottom of a particular water body. These species as well, they're filter feeders, and so they'll filter out a lot of the small animals and plants that live in the water, organisms we call plankton, that other species rely on. So a lot of our smaller fish species will rely on plankton as part of their food or life cycle. In addition, they'll also push out some of the native species that tend to reside on the bottom of lakes and so on. They can cause, by clarifying the water, they can also cause warming of the water. And then beyond the aquatic ecosystem concerns, there's other more practical concerns related to water uses. So because they are so prolific and spread so quickly, they'll often plug water intake pipes for irrigation, municipal water, and that sort of thing.
What can boaters do to help reduce the risk of these getting transplanted from lake to lake?
One of the key processes we found over the years for moving these organisms around is with boats and other watercraft. So certainly boaters can take extra care. Some of the key messaging we're trying to get out to boaters with our informational materials is the clean, drain, dry message. So if they first clean the boat, if you see any visible mud, any aquatic plants hanging from your boat or your trailer, clean those off. Dry or drain the boat. Any sources of water in the boat, typically in the bilge or in the live wells or ballast tanks, drain that off and then thoroughly dry your boat. And if boaters can do that every time before they move their boat from one body of water to another, that would go a long ways to preventing these species from entering the province.
How big are these organisms?
Well, zebra and quagga mussels they're not very large. They reach adult size at about 1 centimeter in length. So they tend not to grow much beyond about 2 centimeters in size. So, yay so big.
So you can see them with your naked eye? You
can. There is a juvenile form, and they can be really very tiny and often very hard to see on a boat. And when boat inspections are done, typically the inspector will run their hands along the boat, and if they feel sort of a rough sandpapery-like feeling on their hands, that could be an indication of zebra mussels or quagga mussels. So depending on their stage of existence, they may not be entirely visible.
And if people want more information on this topic, where can they go?
They can go to the Ministry of Environment website. Right on our homepage is a button. They click on that button, it'll take them to more information on a number of different aquatic invasive species, including the 2 species I mentioned.